Yeah. So if you work with any company that has a Google business profile, if they have a Google business profile, typically they're a local company, right? If you're a local company, you better have a Google business profile.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the Amazing Marketing Show, where we talk about all things marketing, including the fast and the slow and the big and the small. And this week, we're talking about small business, as a matter of fact, local business, and our local businesses of our friends, and what's happening now in the marketing that we're doing and that our agency co-workers and partners are doing. So that's what we're getting into. Chris Gray, my co-host, how are you?
Dmitri, what up, man?
I'm excited to talk about this. A lot of times we talk about big company names, what they're doing with their marketing, what's Amazon doing, what's Apple doing, what are celebrities doing in their influencer campaigns and whatever else, which is good too. But this time we're really putting the microscope on what's happening in smaller businesses and their marketing. So excited to get into that with you.
I'm excited to do this for y'all listening. I'm just excited to be back on the podcast. We had a little break because it's summertime and we have vacations and kind of a crazy schedule. And so Dimitri and I talk, but I love Dimitri and I miss him and I miss these when we're not recording on Fridays. And I think that this, you didn't ask me this. I'm on my little soapbox. I'll get off soon. But if you were to ask me the biggest thing to change my life in the last 5 years, I would say it was the new friendships I made in the right rooms. And Dimitri's one of them. You're not going to make, I don't, if somebody tells me they have 100 friends, I'll tell them they're full of, you know what. So you go in these rooms, whatever it is, if you're trying to get better at jiu-jitsu, trying to get better at working out, trying to get better at being a better mom, and you get to these mom groups, if you can get in the right community and then find somebody that you vibe with and then and grow and make a new friendship with them, it's life changing, right? Show me your friends. I'll show you who you are. These podcasts, I'm almost done, Dimitri, but these podcasts, I don't care who's listening right now. Me and Dimitri decided to do this to get better at talking. I had I had two sales calls last week. Then usually my business partner runs them, but he wasn't around, so I ran them. And had I not been putting the hours in and the times in, just talking to a camera and having to think fast, those sales calls wouldn't have gone as well as they did. Whether these clients close or not, I felt great, and it's because I'm just good. I'm not good at talking. I'm used to talking more than I was this time last year. Way more information than you asked for, homie, but that was on my mind.
I'm all about more information than I asked for. Sometimes I feel like I'm not asking the right questions anyway. So I appreciate you coming in with that information. And of course, I feel completely the same way. I'm so glad to have met you. And it was really the right room that made it all happen. And plus the extra work that we're putting in with this podcast and with speaking. Of course, speaking for myself, I don't feel like I'm there yet, but I feel like I've gotten a little bit better. And you guys can put in the comments if you're seeing that or not, or if I'm
Yep.
just terrible, whatever. You let me know what your opinion is. But I agree with that sentiment, Chris, and I'm really thankful to have to do this podcast with you. I missed you last week as well. It was July 4th week, and I think we both were out with our families doing stuff as a good American family should be doing on 4th of July week. So, and now we're back.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So okay, well let's talk about some of the things that you're seeing now. You were on some sales calls. I'm glad those went well, and I bet you shared some information that some of the difficulties that exist in the marketing world right now. I think you have a couple updates for us on the local business side. So let us have it.
Yeah. So if you work with any company that has a Google business profile, if they have a Google business profile, typically they're a local company, right? If you're a local company, you better have a Google business profile. So if you work with local companies that have Google business profiles, something dirty that's been happening to these companies is you can go into the Google Maps and move a company's pin. So let's say this company's in Dallas, Texas. I can go to the company in Dallas, Texas, and move their pin to Arkansas or Florida or whatever it is through the Google Maps. And then when I do that, their Google business profile ranking will tank over time. Because why would Google, if I'm in Dallas and I need a plumber, why is Google going to show me a plumbing company that has a pin in Florida? It's not. That plumbing company could be a half mile away from me in real life, but if the pin has been moved, Google doesn't know the difference. And so what's been happening is people's competition or disgruntled employees or marketing companies, right? Because you're like let's take a plumbing company for example. A disgruntled plumber might not really know about how to move a pin in Google Maps, right? But maybe a marketing company might or something like that. And so, anyways, whoever's moving it, somebody can go in there, move that company's pin, and then all of a sudden, um, the company whose pin got moved tanks. They're not getting any phone calls. They're not getting any customers. Whatever. I first heard about this through our guy Ruben Rock. Shout out to Ruben Rock. He helps with carpet cleaners, but he understands local marketing at a very high level. So I got a email newsletter about him talking about. Or I got his. I subscribe to his newsletter. I suggest you do too. Look at Ruben Rock carpet cleaning. I subscribed to his newsletter, and it talked about this. And I went and read the article. The article you can find it on SE Roundtable. If you just Google Map pin hack leads to local ranking drop. So Google Map pin hack leads to local ranking drop. It'll bring up the article that Ruben was referencing. And I thought that was some great information. He even told my business partner about it. But I'm like, I don't know how much this is really happening, but it's pretty crappy that it's happening. Lo and behold, Thursday, I get a text from a client that said, "Hey, our calls our phones are dead. We're not getting any calls. I went to my Google business profile and this is what I saw. And this company is located in Dallas, Texas, but their pin got moved to Houston somehow." And this is one of those clients where there's some clients that you just don't want to slip up with because you're going to hear it, right? Like if you give them any kind of, if you mess up, they're going to be on top of it. And so had I not known about this through the newsletter and reading about it, I would not have had an answer. And I would have had, it would have taken me a long time I'd have been trying to figure out who moved the pin on our team and what happened and blah, 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 this and that. Whereas I got that text from her and I immediately knew what happened. One of her disgruntled employees or the competition, who knows, moved the pin. So now we're putting places or checks and balances in place for our companies to check their pin until Google fixes this. And so again, if you have a local company, their business drops, just the floor falls out, right? The business just drops and everything looks the same. PPC looks the same. Your SEO is looking the same. Everything looks the same, but all of a sudden they're not getting phone calls. Go and check the pin and go see if somebody moved it.
Dang, that is a dangerous tip, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So don't go out there moving your competition's tip. Seriously.
Yeah.
But if it is happening to you, you know why it might be happening. Somebody may have moved your pin. So go check where your pin is. And if you don't have a Google My Business and you have a local business company, well, you should get one and then place your pin in the right spot so you can start getting some traffic that way.
Yeah.
Man, that is a big one. I bet it would take forever to figure out why something went wrong if that is what happened. And by the way, what's up with Google letting that happen? That seems like a real oversight that should be easy to correct and quick to correct. How is this still happening?
That's exactly what the article discusses: is how is Google letting this happen? And they know it's happening, and not only is this happening, Dmitri, but now let's say I go move Big Life Marketing Plumbing. I go move Big Life Plumbing, whatever this our imaginary company here. I go move the pin for that company. You catch it and you move it back. Now Google suspends your Google business profile because you've been moving the pin too much or whatever. So now think about that. Your pin got moved, you move it back, and you lose your Google business profile. This is what's really happening, and Google's aware of it, but they're just not on top of it right now.
Maybe that's one of the problems that we have with these monopolized ad industries, because we've heard for decades, a decade, that Facebook will suspend your account without caring. You can never reach customer support. They'll just never care because what are you going to do? Go advertise on Snapchat?
Right.
No, because Snapchat is not good and doesn't have as much inventory. And same thing with Google. Who are you going to go? Are you going to go on Yelp? Okay, good luck. You're just going to have all the same problems on Yelp at much less reach.
Yeah, dude. It's yeah. I'm going to say the exact same thing you just said, but another way somebody put it was, you know, Facebook has all these problems and they deliver less than satisfactory customer service. And he's like, what are you going to do? Go advertise on the other Facebook? You're kind of just stuck. You're just stuck here. This is a terrible problem, man. Like, I mean, it's literally impacting livelihood. And so you, I hope it gets fixed. And Dmitri, I did not think about the other side of what could happen if I put out a tip like this. I didn't think about that. Um, but I truly believe in karma. And I would hope that people aren't going out and putting out that type of energy because I don't care what you believe in or whatever it is. I don't care about all that. But for me personally, it's like you put that type of stuff out, it's going to come back some form or fashion in some way. So whatever.
Right. And if that's how you're fighting for market share is by cheating or exposing certain loopholes that are going to get closed soon, I'm sure that you're running the rest of your business in the same way. And that's just not a business built to last.
Yep.
And we know about this through affiliate marketers too, use every trick in the book and they don't last. They burn out or they go to jail in some cases. And you might not go to jail for doing this, but it is possible that Google will track who's doing these things and eventually ban your account or your username or your IP address or whatever it is that they can, where you can't advertise with them anymore. That is something that can happen. So you should be aware.
Yeah, man. So look out for it in the small percentage chance that that may happen. I thought it was cool to know until it actually became reality for me this week. And that's the first one. I'll go into the second one if that's okay, Dmitri.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So going back to this again, any company that relies on reviews, but in my case, specifically to your local companies who really rely on reviews, restaurants, home services, whatever. Something that has been happening with Google lately when it comes to reviews is we all know that review quantity matters, right? You want to have a high amount of reviews, or you want to have a high average, and you want to have a high amount. We all know that. What Google is doing lately is they're putting more weight on the recency of reviews. This first started with something called Google Guaranteed. Google Guaranteed are local service ads. These are like, imagine Angie's List, those types of companies, except this is Google's version of it. It's like Google saying, hey, this company, Google guarantees this company to be good. So a plumbing company can sign up for this service and they fall in the Google Guaranteed category. And we knew that recency of reviews impacts how high you show up in Google Guaranteed. Now it's moving on to the Google Business Profile. And so here's an example of it. You can have Company 1, been around since 1970, has 2,000 reviews, right? Company 2, been around since 2017, and they've got 200 reviews. So Company A, right, has has more reviews and been around longer, which typically would help in the old school frame of thinking. Well, you have Company B, less reviews and hasn't been around as long. But let's say last month, Company A, been around longer, has more reviews, only got 10 reviews in that month. Company B, right, new company, less reviews, had 30 reviews the last month. Company B gets the boost in the rankings here. And so it's because they have more reviews that are recent. And if you think about it, this makes sense. You could have a plumbing company or a restaurant since 1970. Does it mean it's always had the same owner or the same leadership or same management? Probably not. So you might have been kicking butt back in 1970, 1980, 1990, even the 2000s. You get bought out, you might not be kicking butt so much, right? But you have this padding of reviews to help, mitigate the complaints, right? Whereas you have this new company who's coming out the gates kicking butt. Google's This is why this is something they are doing well. It's a what have you done for me lately type game. And so if you have a bunch of reviews, you can't just sit back and think that you can just kick your feet up and get phone calls or get people coming in the doors. You have to constantly be providing good service and then getting reviews for that service that you provided. It's a recency thing lately, and not enough companies, not enough marketing companies, not enough marketers are talking about it. Recency is just as important as quantity. And so make sure that if you're working with these types of businesses, they're putting an emphasis on recent reviews, not just, oh, we're just trying to get a bunch. No, it's not trying to get a bunch. It's a frequency game here lately.
That reminds me, when you're saying that, I just think of restaurants. You'll see, like, in every town or city, there's this Greek restaurant that's been around forever, and they have good reviews, but you go and it's just no one's even trying. You walk in the door, no one even
Mm-hmm.
bothers to. I'm not picking on the Greek restaurant. There's a lot of restaurants. It seems like back in the day, the grandpa that founded it was hustling, and now the grandchild is just like, yeah, whatever. Then,
Yeah.
so this is definitely a good thing for consumers. It sounds like they're going to get a better experience, and it's kind of funny how these big companies like Google, like Amazon, are pushing the providers of services and goods to be better.
Yeah. Like 1000%. And I think we to your restaurant um, story is very applicable because I think that everybody out there has this restaurant or fast food chain that the food when you ate it back in the day isn't the same food that you're eating today. I mean, I used to love I, I don't eat fast food much at all anymore, but back in the day I used to love Dairy Queen chicken strips and the what's it called? And the gravy. That was delicious to me back in the day. Growing up in the South, they had some of the best fast food chicken strips. I had some, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago to get that nostalgic feeling. And I was like, what is this? And it wasn't because my taste buds changed. The chicken strips were just totally different. They were totally different. And that's just one, but everybody has that type of story. Some place you went to eat, you ate at back in the day, and now you go there and it's different. And so what Google's doing makes sense.
Okay, so you just blew my mind with something completely. You probably don't know what it is, but I had no idea and would have never guessed that Dairy Queen has chicken. What? Dude, Dairy Queen. I don't know that I've ever been to a Dairy Queen, but I figured it'd be ice cream and like shakes and banana splits. What? Where'd the chicken
Bro,
come from?
Dairy Queen has like hamburgers
What?
and like beef chicken, like beef strips, like chicken strips except beef. They have like a full on food menu, and I didn't care about their hamburgers or any of that. It was like whatever. But those chicken strips back in the day, Dairy Queen was the place to go to for chicken strips, and no longer.
Well, that's complete shock to me. But yeah, about the reviews tip, that's really good to know. And if you're not focused on continuing to be good and asking for reviews, you're gonna fall behind again. Sorry, you can't coast based on the work you did 10 years ago. You just got to keep putting out good things, or else the competition who does care about it, or then the young whippersnappers, you're coming up guy, he's gonna overtake you with your reviews.
And no, I'm not going to beat this point to death because I want to get to some of the stuff that's working um, for you right now. But I think that um, again, one of my favorite quotes is once you know the way broadly, you or once you understand the way broadly, know or understand one of those things. But once you know the way broadly, you see it in all things. And so in this case, it's about, hey, what have you done for me lately with Google? And I think when you zoom out, let's take marketing, for example. You may have been great at SEO 5 years ago. The game has changed now with AI. And so just because you were good at something years ago or you're really knowledgeable doesn't mean it didn't change today. We got to stay up to date with these things. And that's from business to my relationship with my wife and my daughter. What my daughter liked a year ago is not what she likes today. And what my wife needed a year ago, a month ago or yesterday is not what you needed today. It's like this is a transferable principle in a lot of things, man.
It's so true, but that's why we say marketing isn't everything. It
Yes.
really is the basis of our show. We're not just talking about marketing because we like marketing, which we do, but we know that it applies to everything in life.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I've got one to share that I'm seeing right now is that CPCs, cost per click, are just going through the roof, and they're going fast. We like to look at our stats on an hourly basis, daily basis, weekly, monthly, whatever. All of the different time frames. And one of the ones we look at the most is weekly. What's going on week over week? And we'll see maybe 10% variation from week over week. It could go up, it could go down. And then lately, especially as we hit the summer, I'm starting to see massive increases in cost per click. I'm talking 20, 30, even 100% increases for
Oh
some
gosh.
campaigns in some places. Now, the question is, why is that happening and what can we do about it? What we're doing is trying even harder. I mean, we're not really changing anything in our process, but we're just saying, okay, well, what creative can we put out? What copy can we put out that's going to increase our CTR so that our cost per click can go down? So that's one thing. That's a lever you can pull, is increase your CTR. And another lever you can pull potentially is restarting your campaigns, trying to get some new. This is more like a tactic or a trick, is maybe create a duplicate ad group. You just try to play around with your ad account. I would say don't just let this happen to you. Fight it. You have to fight
Dmitri, question on this CPC stuff. And I assume you're talking about Google. That's usually where you're playing, right?
I'm talking about everywhere. Google, well, not everywhere. I'm talking about Google, Bing, and Facebook.
Okay. So then one of the things that has been mentioned, which I tested here recently and it didn't work out as well. And I want to get your opinion on this. Somebody talked about this where if I can have the exact same campaign, the exact same everything, and let's say it's a purchase campaign on Facebook versus a link click campaign. And that purchase campaign, once it starts to really like hit, the CPAs on it will start, the CPCs will go up. Even though it's, let's say the creative is great and it's getting a bunch of engagement, getting a bunch of sales, but when Facebook sees you're making money, they're going to try to get a little bit more of that money. So one of the ways to get around it was they would say, hey, take that exact same campaign and run a different objective. So what I did recently was I took a campaign I knew worked. I ran it as a traffic campaign in Facebook, but the only targeting I put on there was recent buyers, people who recently purchased something on Facebook, and I put the objective as a link click. So the CPCs like tanked in a good way. Like they were significantly cheaper because it's a different objective. And my hypothesis was get more eyeballs on it, but target people who purchased something recently on Facebook. So maybe I'll get sales through a traffic campaign. Didn't work out. Like Facebook was like, no. Well, CPCs really lowered. Didn't really get any sales off of something I knew that was selling. So, what is your opinion on the tactics? That type of tactic when people say change up the goal of the campaign or something.
I I really love this stuff because it's actually a complex problem. It's a multivariate problem where it's not an easy solution. You've got you've got CPC, you've got quality of traffic, you've got sales, you've got whatever the algorithm is thinking about doing. Because here's how it would be if it were easy. If it were easy, that would mean if you get your CPC down, then your cost per sale would go down if it were easy. If the ad platform made it easy. But the devil's advocate argument is that if you don't work with the platform, it will punish you by sending you their bad inventory.
Mm-hmm.
Now you targeted previous buyers where supposedly it's a good audience, but within that audience, there's probably better users and worse users. So what could have happened is that, okay, you told them, I just want CPC. I don't want to fall into your trap of I'm going to pay you more money because you see that it's working for me and you're going to charge me more, which I think we should touch on a little bit. So Facebook is then saying, all right, well, fine, I will send you cheaper clicks, but I'm going to send you the inventory nobody else wants. That's why it's cheaper. So it accomplishes its goal of getting you clicks and cheaper clicks. It did what you asked it to do, effectively. So my opinion on it is, in Facebook, this is an unproven strategy to date. So for you, it didn't work. I haven't heard many success stories in Facebook. However, in Google ads specifically, and this is pioneered by John Moran over the last couple months, he's been really putting Google ads to the test and making bold statements that Google is taking that. Put it this way: is that it's not really a fair auction like you think it might be. Let me explain that. What he's saying is that the rules of the game are that all the advertisers come together and they place their bids, and based on their quality score, which is your bid times how relevant your ad is, whoever's got the highest rank will rank for that keyword, and the bid will be 1 cent higher than the second highest bid. So let's say there's 4 bids: $4, $3, $2, $1, and the $4 bid wins, but they only have to pay $3.01. That's kind of like a simplified version of how it's supposed to work. Now, again, it's based on quality score, which is rank. It's not 100% your bid. So it's not your bid, okay? It's actually your rank. So let's say the rank is 4, 3, 2, and 1. Anyway, the bid, I just want to make sure the people who do know like Google Ads really well, they're not going to be commenting like, no, it's not the bid. The bid is a big part of it. Let's just call it bids. So that's how it's supposed to be. But what John has found is that if you have conversion tracking set up and you are showing Google that the traffic they're providing to you is more valuable to you than what they're taking from you, meaning you're making a profit or you're making a significant profit, they're going to arbitrarily raise your cost, especially with these automated bidding strategies like target CPA, maximize conversions, maximize ROAS, all that stuff. And in his experiments, changing to manual CPC, especially on search campaigns or shopping campaigns, going manual CPC, he's found that the clicks are cheaper and the quality is the same. And you can get, and as a bonus, you're not capped at a certain volume without raising your bids. In the manual CPC world, it's kind of back to the old Wild West of the way I describe it, where it's just kind of a fair system. So in Google Ads, what you outlined, I think, is a possibility.
And no, you're right. You are 100% right. I didn't think about this, but I have. We run a lot of PPC for the home services. But let's take the seasoning business that I do. I just bid on the brand name. That's it, because I don't want to bid on barbecue seasoning. I'm not in the market for somebody who is searching. When I'm in the market for, you saw me on Facebook or YouTube, now you're just looking to buy me. And so I just bid on the brand name. And long story short, if I do what Google wants me to do, just for that bidding on that brand name, I'm paying 2-3 times as much per sale as I am when I just have the manual campaign with the exact match keyword. And now my CPA is quite literally like $1.16 or something for something that can sell up to 30 $30, $70, depending. But I know where I'm at. I know only this keyword is not that popular, right? Because I'm the only one, so it can't be anybody bidding on it unless you're trying to like compete with me. I'm not that huge, and so I know that if I did it the automated way, those CPAs would hike. I saw it happening. So very good point.
Yeah, it's kind of cool that we stumbled on this because this might be relevant to most of our listeners, especially with these branded campaigns. If you do want to bid on your branded campaign, and you let's say you set a budget of $100 a day, and you select maximize conversions. Like, what's the most? Give me the most conversions. Well, guess what? Google's going to spend the entire $100, no
Yes.
matter what. Meaning, for a click that should have cost you 15 cents, it's going to pay $2.50, literally 20 times higher potentially, just because you're running through their manual process. Now, their automated bidding strategy, rather. The manual process, and this has kind of been known with branded for a long time. I know a lot of Google advertisers, including us, would do manual CPC on branded traffic and then automate it on everything else. And like with this John Moran strategy is like, well, if it's happening for branded, don't you think it's happening for everything? And like, oh man, but it's so tricky because there was this period between, let's say, 2013 or 2014 to, I don't know when it ended, maybe I don't know, 2020, 2021. Actually, a lot of changes happened, but there was this period where target CPA in Google was incredible, and it was fair bidding, and it would just get you really, really good conversion values, and then just got more and more expensive.
I didn't know that about the gold. About when was this again? I know you said you didn't know, but about how long ago was this again?
My estimate is 2013 to 2021 was the golden
Okay.
era of target CPA.
Well,
Like,
I
it would
missed
work
that.
on display traffic. I remember in 2020, 2021, everyone was home and online, granted, at that time. There's a lot more inventory to go around. But man, target CP on display traffic in Google Ads was fire. And now it's not.
Are you seeing conversions with display nowadays?
Nowadays, if we use it conservatively for remarketing traffic, we can get conversions still on display, but it's nowhere on the level that it used to be in that golden era that I'm referring to. There used to, and now there's Performance Max, which, by the way, let's just talk about Performance Max for a second. Now that we're on the Google Ads deep dive, all that Performance Max is that it's Google is taking all of its inventory.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, it has a lot of variation in its inventory. There's search, which is very high quality traffic. There's shopping, very high quality traffic. YouTube, great opportunity to show a commercial, legitimate commercial. And then you start getting into the questionable inventory, like display and partner traffic and whatever else.
Gmail.
Yeah, and well, actually, Gmail now is so expensive where it used to be cheap and it used to convert. When people check their inbox, they think it's an email that they subscribe to potentially, like clicking it. And now the CPCs are outrageous in Gmail, but it used to be good. But all that PMAX Performance Max is a combination of all their inventory, good and bad, mostly bad, that they can mix into one campaign type and tell you, hey, this is a black box. We're not going to show you where your ads showed, on what campaign type they showed. We're not going to tell you anything because we're trying to sell all of our inventory. And this is kind of like a political bill. You guys know all about bill, like we'll call the infrastructure bill. It sounds amazing. Or the feed kids and their families bill. Like, you give it the best name ever, like Performance Max bill, but then you stuff all the junk deep down in the fine print, and that's what Performance Max is.
It's like it's like a hot dog, right? You know, there's gonna be some beef and some chicken in there, but we don't know. It's probably not. We don't want to know what's in it, right? Like a sausage, and you just put it all in this one thing and sell it for cheap.
Exactly. Exactly right. So That's the what were we talking about anyway? CPCs.
Yeah, but I want to stick with this because you're right. Even from going back to, let's go back to the local perspective, but what you're talking about. And so I didn't think about it. Gmail would be dope for certain products, right? In my experience running Performance Max, I'm running for a plumbing company. Gmail wasn't the best if I'm looking for plumbing services, somebody to hire a plumber today. Gmail is not where I want to be. And so I noticed, like, when I do my CRMs with our clients, and I'll be like, I'll show them their CPC for a plumbing word like plumber near me. That word in search can be 25, 75, 100, depending on the season, depending on where you're at. But their CPCs are like $1.60, $1.30 something in there. And the ones who are knowledgeable will ask me why it's so cheap. I don't sit there and act like I'm doing something incredible. No, it's cheap because I'm buying all of Google's inventory, which includes a lot of trash. But in that trash, it gives me certain placements that I want. Um, yeah. So, anyways, that was a good point, and that's how it's applied to the local perspective.
Yeah, and for you guys listening, when Chris is saying 50, 75, $100 per click for some of these
Yes.
industries, literally $100 per click, and he's getting
Yes.
a dollar, $2 clicks through Performance Max, and it's not. I'm not saying don't use it necessarily if you can use it and it works, but be aware of what it is.
Yeah, man.
So another thing about CPCs with them going up, why is this happening? And there could be a number of reasons. One of the things that is coming up and happening now is election season is upon us, and this is a tough time for advertisers because I just looked this up. Elections cost uh, 2020 cycle, which was a congressional and presidential cycle, cost a total of $16 billion. $16 billion is how much money they spend. Most of that money goes into advertising. Almost all of it goes into advertising. It's kind of nuts. So we expect probably this cycle to only be bigger, plus inflation, whatever else. It's going to be a $20 billion cycle. Now, if we look at Facebook revenue, they did 131 billion in 2023, and most of their money comes from ad revenue. So that comes out to what, like 2.5 billion a week making. And what, like, okay, so if we get an injection of $20 billion into this Facebook and Google cycle, just on the math, on that math alone, that should lead to an increase of 25% on your CPCs just because there's more competition. In certain weeks, it's going to be even higher. So this is something, the election profile of prospects is a valuable prospect. Those are the people that typically are going to buy. Like everyone's after the same people, effectively. Really, everyone's after the same people, and people want the vote of all these people. People want the candidates want the vote of these people as well. So you can expect your CPCs to go up for that reason.
Bro, I'm so glad you brought this up because not only is it going to increase your CPCs on your Facebooks, your Googles, whatever else, it also, let's say you're doing email marketing and you're doing email sends, right? Um, you pay for these email sends and that price will fluctuate. For me, as Dmitri knows, we have a email business that we target people that are on the right wing. And we're licking our chops for the election season because the election season because this is when our emails get higher engagement. Higher engagement means that you're able to monetize it better. What's been happening though, the blowback of what Dimitri's talking about was when you have this influx of money going towards these campaigns, they're going to do Facebook, they're going to do Google, they're going to do whatever else, they're going to do email. And if you have these ESPs, email service providers, getting an influx of emails about political stuff, these email service providers have rules to play by. And not everybody who's getting some of this political money, not every publisher or sender or whatever, not every company that's sending a bunch of email is compliant. And if they're not compliant, then the ESP is at risk. So what is the ESP like Yahoo, or not the ESP, but even just the people that have the inboxes like Oath. Oath would be Yahoo and AOL. That's big, especially for the right wing. And then Gmail, what do? They make it harder for you to inbox because they need to protect the person who has the inbox. That's the business. And then the ESP, email service providers, will make it harder as well because they have compliance. And if you come sending a bunch of crap and doing a bunch of stuff, then they're liable. And so it becomes essentially harder in the email perspective. It's more expensive than it should be, and it's harder to inbox because you have so many people flooding the game with trash and not playing by the rules. So this blowback, this political blowback, it's seen in different forms when it comes to marketing.
Yes. So space in the inbox, delivery, but maybe even more important or more valuable than any of that is the attention. So, in addition to all the normal products people would be getting pitched or services, now their attention is turned onto this political cycle. So, how do you break
Hmm.
through that additional barrier to getting into the person's subconscious and their lizard brain so they can just start buying stuff from you?
Yet another good point, and I know we're getting close to time here, but what Dmitri is saying is so right because anytime it's the political season, election season, we see a dip in the home service markets. Plumbers get impacted, AC repair gets impacted, electricians get impacted. You're like, what in the heck does politics have to do with your plumbing? Like, why are people not getting stuff fixed in their home during election season? But there's a correlation. I've been in the game long enough to see it. So if it's affecting the home service industry, I can only imagine who else it's impacting.
It's kind of like the cycles of the sun and the moon. It seems like, you have your daily sun cycles. It's just gonna come up and then it's gonna set every day. And the
Yes.
moon's gonna have its 28-day cycle, and the politics are gonna have their 4-year cycle, especially. And then the 2-year cycle is not as big, but every 4 years, it's just like the whole country. It's it's this cycle that we live by. So be aware of it. I do want to, before we end, I want to share, if it's okay with you, a what I think is an email mistake that cost me business, related to this delivery issue that you were mentioning.
Oh yeah, please share.
Back at the beginning of the year, it seemed like a lot of people, especially at the masterminds that we go to, were talking about how on February 1st or March 1st or something like that, all of these email providers, Gmail, all of them are going to be way more strict on delivery. And so many more emails are going to go into spam and blah, blah, blah. I mean, man, it was like fear. They were pitching fear at these masterminds big time, these email specialists. And I got to be honest, it got me. So I started to get really conservative with email for one of our clients. And I think that cost me their business because I was too busy focused on what's our postmaster's delivery score, like how much are we inboxing, and the fact of the matter was the February 1st came and went and nothing really happened. Nothing happened, and I was way too conservative on it. And instead of sending, let's say, 5 emails or 7 emails a week, we're only doing 2, and then we got less revenue because of that. And it was a mistake. So looking back on it now, what would I do differently? Is now going into this election cycle is to not, I mean, to be aware of what you mentioned, but I don't think it's. I think these email providers are, maybe with the exception of Gmail, but even them, I think they're worried about not sending the emails. They kind of don't want to throw you in spam if they don't have to. Is my opinion on it.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback off what you said, the context is important. If I'm sending political stuff, um, that is going. Google's going to be on more alert for political stuff, weight loss stuff, skincare stuff than they might be for somebody who's selling seasoning. So it's really industry specific. And to your point, Google wants just to get relevant information in front of the eyeballs of the user, and information that they requested or relevant information. And so, if you're playing that game and your stuff is good and relevant, then I think Google wants to inbox you, ideally.
Yeah, especially your local businesses. You guys are a good business, provide a good service, you're getting good
Yeah.
reviews. Just keep sending your emails, please. Don't get caught up in what's going on with the election. Don't get caught up in delivery and all that stuff. Just keep sending emails.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys, that's the episode. We'll see you next time.
Peace.